Good morning. It's Heather Weiler at the Power of Miracles. I'm here to tell you that if I can do it, you can do it. I've gone through so much in my life. Starting at age 7, I was hit by a triple trailer semi truck. I lost half my liver, tore my ligament in my left knee, hurt my right foot, broke it, and had a bunch of neck problems from whiplash and traumatic brain injury. Also, I was hit at 26 by another drunk driver, and I hurt my back really bad. So, with every step I take, I'm in pain. I've been in more pain lately since 2015. Dr. Lakangata in Mesa, Arizona, he didn't want to spend an extra hour removing the screw that was in my knee from a previous surgery. So I he ended up putting the metal in my knee, and it turned 10 degrees and was tilted in my knee for a year. And I had a spiritual awakening that year because I was studying the big book of AA, the scriptures, church material. I would study for 5 to 7 hours a day. And I really came into Christ and God and really found my place in my spiritual journey. Also, I'm a recovering alcoholic addict. I have about 19 days clean from marijuana, and I have 15 years, almost 16 years. On the 21st of October, I'll have 16 years sober from Ativan, which I almost died from. And then I have 23 years on April 21st. I celebrated 23 years sober from alcohol and street drugs. So I go to AA almost regularly. I love it. It's my happy place. I've found so much strength in recovery and in the meetings and in the big book. A little bit about what happened to me growing up. I'm a victim of abuse. I was abused as a child, and I have a lot of issues as I aged. Little one, come here, little one. I was a little kitty. So anyways, what ended up happening was I served a mission. I used to be Mormon, and I served a mission for the Mormon Church, and I realized I had bipolar symptoms on my mission. So I told my mission president that, and he got me into counseling. And for the first 3 hours in counseling ever in my life, I just bawled my eyes out, cried about the pink elephant that was in the room that I could never talk about. I wasn't allowed to talk about the abuse, nor was I able to talk about anything going on in the household to anyone. And it really traumatized me. I got CPTSD and a mild case of borderline, and I have bipolar 2, and anxiety and depression. And I actually just got out of the hospital about a week ago because I'm still having some problems in my life. But so I ended up I was dating a couple of guys, but I didn't realize it. But I was actually I'm lesbian, and I had these really hot guys. One guy was like a millionaire. Another guy was totally cute, but I just wasn't attracted to him like I was to women. And I didn't really understand what was going on. It was all so fast, but I ended up going up to Utah, back up to college, and where I was at UVSC, Utah Valley State College at the time, and I'm drinking this American Clear. It's really good for you. It's flavored water. Just kidding. Hold on. And I went up there and I started counseling. Well, my counselor said, "Hey, Heather, I want you to read this book." And I read this book, and it was like I totally came out of denial that I was bisexual. I thought, okay, well, I'm just bi. But I was so upset with God that he had given me abuse as a child, and then the bus accident Then I had to quit running, and I used to play sports. I was the first string in basketball and softball in high school and junior high school, and I wanted to go to play in college and teach my kids how to play basketball if I ever had kids. So I was reading this book and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally bi. So I ended up I had to make a decision. Did I want to date this woman in Salt Lake or marry this man down in Mesa? And I chose to thine own self be true. I never heard of the phrase, but I always thought to myself, when I get older, I want to be married to my soulmate. I was just waiting for my soulmate. So I chose the woman. And I'm grateful I did choose that, because that was where my heart truly was. And so I'm kind of like now a recovering Mormon. And I came out when I was about 26, because I had a bunch of money from the bus accident when I was 7. So I ended up spending it in like $200,000 in 7.5 years. And I was a big raver, alcohol, drugs, everything, and mostly hallucinogenics and alcohol and pot were my drugs of choice. And I ended up coming back home to Mesa after I spent all my money, and it helped me quit doing all the bad things, not having money for sure. But I remember one day, anytime I would come home, my parents would send me to a halfway house, because anytime I came home drunk or stoned or anything, or high, my parents would throw me into a halfway house. And I was just getting sick of this, going in and out of rehabs and halfway houses and everything. Well, one night on 4/20, 4/20 I went to a rave. 4/20, 2003, I went to my last rave and had my last drink. And I ended up we went to the top of this hill to get stoned, and we were all smoking weed and drinking. And I said, okay, you guys, let's go down the hill this way. And I heard all these people behind me say, no, don't go down that way. But I was already starting to go down that way. And I ended up rolling down the hill, like not on Molly, but rolling literally like over and over and over on my knees and my head. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm totally falling. So I threw myself into a second base slide, because I used to do that a lot in junior high school and high school, playing softball. And I literally have this heart on my knee from the last time it made a heart on my knee, this going down the hill. Isn't that crazy? I've been wanting to get it tattooed, but I've decided against it. I've got my sage, my holy wood here. This really helps me, ground me. So that was the last time I ever drank, and I hadn't. I stayed sober from everything for 23 years. But I did last, like 6 years ago, my doctors put me back on marijuana for my pain. But I can't do it because I have bipolar 2, and my medicine doesn't mix well with me. Every single time I do marijuana now, it makes me suicidal. So I thought to myself, you do the dumbest things when you're drunk and you're stoned, and I just don't want to do that anymore. Like I just want to like have a good life and be sober and everything. So I moved back home to be with my family, and I've been in counseling off and on for 20 years, and when I moved back home, my sister and I were best friends. This is my twin, Holly Weiler. God rest her soul. That's my twin sister. She died December 23rd, 2004. But she completed suicide. I ended up having a lot of problems afterwards because I was so connected to her. And I was grieving. I was still grieving after 10 years. And I had a friend call me from, I took this picture. I'm a photographer at heathersphotos.net. But I had a friend call me in the hospital. She said, Heather, I have this impression your sister and your ancestors are with you. So I went to my room and I wrote my sister a letter and I said, Holly, if you're with me, please help me. I'll feel you. And I totally felt my sister come to me. And I know she's with me. I feel her now. I'm an empath and I'm really strong in, I have very strong intuitive feelings. And it's been really a blessing in my life. So she ended up committing suicide because her ex-husband was being really mean to her, and they were going through a custody battle, and he was really mean to her and stalking her, threatening her, and he wanted joint custody, and like she started having suicidal dreams, and about 1 week later, we went to see Christmas of the Cranks, me, Brennan, Holly, her son, and we went and saw that movie, and then I got a call the next morning from her saying she is gonna kill herself. So I got ready, drove over to her house, my parents' house, and found her hanging in her Mormon temple clothes. And she, it was the most traumatic thing I've ever seen or witnessed. And, very traumatic. My hair ended up going straight. It grew back curly once I started my own life coaching business. My hair is naturally curly, so, so my grief was healed, but, I still miss her dearly. And then, fast forward to now, it's been 22 years since she's passed. And I am a total advocate for people that feel suicidal. I understand, I get that way too sometimes, but because I had a near-death experience in the bus accident, I just keep going. One moment at a time is what I do. I take it a day at a time and a moment at a time. When I start future tripping, I know it's bad. But when I, stay in the moment, because it says in the big book, that we have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. So the most important thing we can do is have a spiritual connection. And that spiritual connection is what keeps us sober. And I have here, my friend Nina made this. It's a little light of Holly Wickham. She was my best friend, and she took her life also about 6-7 months ago, and it was so heartbreaking. I miss her so much. I think of her every day. She was such a valiant soldier, and suicide is not the way to go. Like, in the bus accident, I had a near-death experience, and that's what's kept me alive all these years, is because, I could never do that to Brennan, my sister's son that I helped raise. And I could never do that to my family. It's so selfish. Or anyone else. And I just have to keep going. Even though I suffer with chronic pain. And Jesus Christ. I love Jesus. He has gotten me through such hard times. I always say to myself the phrase that says, with God, all things are possible. And sometimes with every step I take that I'm in pain, I say that to myself. with God, all things are possible. And even though I'm not Mormon anymore, I go to Community of Christ, which is the offshoot church from the Mormon church. The founder of the church was Joseph Smith's wife, and that's the founder's wife. And just so I got baptized there, and they are so compassionate and just amazing. And I'm so grateful I found them, and they're so awesome. But fast forward to today, I just try to do the right thing, and I've learned a lot about how to know what's right and wrong and what to do to continue to do the right thing. And I'm grateful for my intuition. I'm grateful that gratitude has saved my life. Like whenever I'm in a rut, I just think to myself, okay, what are 5 things I'm grateful for? And that really helps me a lot, because it helps me not be in self-pity. And whenever I have a craving for alcohol and drugs, I just think to myself, and say to myself, okay, God, help me with this. Please remove the craving. And then usually immediately he removes the craving. And then I get into service work right away. If that's calling someone on the phone, going to a meeting, helping someone clean their house, cleaning my house, doing service work for myself, I have to get outside of myself, because as a recovering alcoholic addict, I am self-centered to the extreme. And that's what it says in our big book. So I'm grateful I'm an alcoholic addict, because I found the rooms of AA. And I found God again in AA, because what happened was on October 20th, 2010, I hit rock bottom with Ativan. I was drinking liquid Ativan at the time. Hi, little one. And my little kitty. I was drinking liquid Ativan at the time, and I thought to myself, you know what? I have everything. I have a car, a girlfriend, I have money in the bank, I have a nice place to live, I have food in the fridge, I have all these things, and I have a TV and all that stuff, but I don't have God. Little one. I don't have God, and I've known God before through the near-death experience and through the bus accident and being Mormon and everything. And I knew that's what was missing. It was a hole in my heart that could only be filled by the divine light of God. And I went to an AA meeting, and my friends from there did an intervention on me, Barb and Gail and Andy and Pilar and Kim. And they did a intervention on me, and they said, Heather, you are going to die from this. You have got to get sober. So I ended up getting sober off of Ativan Circle in 1 month at my friend Kim's house, which I found out later you're supposed to do it in a year, not 1 month. And then I went to a halfway house for a couple months, and I loved that they had us go to AA meetings all the time. So I ended up going to this this AA meeting. Little one, oh no, come here, baby. I ended up going to this meeting. I loved it. I just kept going and going. I went for 2 years every day, and I have now almost 16 years sober from Ativan. But what happened, how I found God again, was that I called Nick. I said, what do you do when you have a craving? And he's like, you first pray and ask God to remove the craving, and you immediately get on the service work. So I thought I would do that. I would pray. So I prayed, and I finally looked back in like a 2 week period, and I realized that someone was listening to my prayers, because every time I prayed, the craving was gone immediately. So I know there is a God, and my God is Jesus Christ, Heavenly Father, and Saint Bridget, because I'm also pagan. I'm Christian pagan, and a lot of people don't understand that. Like, how can you be Christian pagan? They kind of don't seem to mix, but it really works for me, and I'm just so grateful that I'm alive today, and a witness to you that weaknesses can become strengths. There's one of my favorite scriptures in the Book of Mormon, because my friend Marianne, who's passed, she said, take what you like and leave the rest, in AA. Well, it says that I give unto you weakness, that ye may be humble, and my grace is sufficient for all men that humble themselves before me. For if they humble themselves before me and have faith in me, then will I make weak things become strong unto them. And I've truly seen this. I've truly seen God make my weaknesses strengths, like staying sober, being celibate until I find the right person. Just trying to do the right thing. I've seen many things become strengths in my life, and it's a blessing. Just choosing life and being happy. So there's a lot of good things out there, and I like to practice. I believe in things that to me feel right, and that's what you should do too. Is go with what you feel is right. And I'm just really grateful that I'm alive today, and a witness to you that God lives and He loves you, and that with God all things are possible. And with that, I pass.